All right, so we're here in Culver City, California with Raw.
What's up?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
such a nice pad you guys got.
Thank you.
There's a lot of I see the Buddha, I see the Palo Santo. We got all the different supplements over here. A
Yeah.
lot of different things.
The Miracle Center.
That's what you call it?
Yeah. It's all the herbs and greens and technically supplements, but there's nothing here you can buy in GNC. So it's basically food in a supplement bottle.
Hmm. And it's all I'm assuming like organic, holistic,
Yeah.
kind of alternative.
Mushrooms and a lot of organic greens that are powdered in a raw state. Yeah, so actually most of my income, I have several streams of income, but most of my income comes from one of the main companies of all the jars look the same over there, the white and the green labels.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of the things I do is I'm a professional network marketer, so I have a whole team of people we call the Holistic Justice League.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is essentially why it's interesting for me is because it's teaching people how to be leaders and how to acquire leaders and enroll them in your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though at the base level we are sharing and selling superfoods, the whole organization is centered around community, which I'm used to building because I had gyms.
Mm-hmm.
So it's centered around building communities and then teaching people self-development. Because network marketing, usually a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth from network marketing because network marketing can be successful whether the products are good or crap. So a lot of people can make money in network marketing even with really bad products. So we've got companies, I'm not going to name any, that have been selling products that actually make people die, or like there's a big supplement company that overloads people's livers and people have actually died because of their products.
Yeah.
But the structure of network marketing is so solid that you could be selling garbage and people still make money. So we have a company that we feel good about. The owner is awesome. He's the person who imported coconut oil into the United States for the first time, and chia seeds, and
good
been
stuff.
working with the organic industry forever. But back to the interesting thing, I like working with the team, working with taking people out of the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset, because that's a big step for a lot of people. And getting over your limiting beliefs, empowering yourself, empowering others, learning to recognize personality traits in others so that you know how to talk to people, emotional intelligence. All of this stuff is necessary when you have a business and people relying on you. And I learned all this, at a very young age because I started mowing lawns when I was in 5th grade and eventually moved to California and just started setting up a gym and operating a gym and having employees and toilets breaking down and lots and lots of responsibility and no going out to nightclubs in my 20s. It was just working, living in the back rooms of my gyms, saving all the money that I had so I can re-spend it on the community that I built. Building community is actually really fun. I know we're just starting, but
let's dive straight into it. I guess what I'm really fascinated with is how you're building your community, your own unique community, because there's this company that you're kind of promoting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have your own unique brand,
right?
And you're kind of rallying people around that.
Yeah.
So what goes on behind the Raw brand?
So I don't want to take all the credit for that. Seema, my partner, she's Architect Goddess on Instagram. So she actually is the main person facilitating the Holistic Justice League, and I'm definitely supporting now a lot more than I have in the past year, but she helped build it up, and now I'm putting more attention into it. But when I own my gyms, there's one sort of concept that was important, and that's the concept that people will quit their gym membership, but they won't quit their friends. So it's a lot easier for someone to cancel a gym membership if they don't have any friends in the gym. But if if this is a place where they go meet their friends, and this is, when people join my gym, that hour that they're at my gym, it was the best hour of their day, right? They worked all day long, and then they come to the gym, they get to spend time with friends who basically are people who are healthy they're basically people who are who they want to be, right? So if you join a gym and you're around all of these healthy people, most of the people that you're joining a new community potentially, and you're really inspired by these people.
Yeah.
And this is really hard for people to let go of. So as long as you can facilitate a community where people want to be a part of, then they're not going to quit your gym. And so from a business standpoint, I'm not really providing a gym, I'm providing a community for people to come basically help facilitate their dreams. So the dream body, the dream relationship, the dream job, the dream feelings, and they get to do that with their friends. And so understanding that concept, you bring that into any other business culture. So you can even utilize this within a normal structured business amongst the employees. We've all had, I haven't really had a full-time job in my entire life, but I remember when I had part-time jobs and looking at the schedule, and I would look and I would be like, okay, Tuesday I work with Nick, and Nick was like my really good work friend. And to me, that Tuesday day, I was almost looking forward to it because I get to basically spend all day joking around with Nick. And then maybe some of the other days were just like working with other employees that I didn't really vibe with, right? Like whether they're not my age or not my style, whatever. But like there's like, I remember specifically wanting to go work with certain people more than others. And so as a boss, as a community leader, if we can facilitate these dyads and triads and social networks with people that that like each other, then that's one pathway to success that could give you market advantage over your quote competition. And not that there needs to be competition, but on a business level, we're still kind of operating in this capitalistic society. There is competition for people's attention. So whether it's the rest of their life, their other relationships, or other businesses, you are in a way, fighting's a really aggressive word, but I'm going to use it for lack of better terms, but fighting for people's attention. And if you can supply them with a grand experience, and I study psychology, like that's humanology, humans in general is like the main subject of my life. And relationships are actually what make people the happiest.
Interesting, yeah. How do you facilitate these relationships between people that like each other in your community? Like what does that look like?
So a lot of the times it's as simple as like starting conversations with people. So finding out, location is one thing, right? So setting people up. So we've got teams all over the place, Canada, Europe. So we want to make sure that everybody who lives
kind of promoting and selling these products.
Everyone who lives in Toronto is kind of on the same structured team so that they're all benefiting from each other. And we teach the leaders there to do some of the concepts that we're talking about here. And some of those concepts are understanding personality traits. So understanding if someone's an extrovert versus an introvert versus someone who's very ego charged versus someone who's like intellectual, what their motivations are. And there's clashes and then there's matches between people. And so just recognizing these patterns. And if you notice, lots of introverts pair up with extroverts because they
it's kind of like the yin and the yang,
right,
kind of,
right,
yeah.
And also people like talking to people with similar characteristics. So it's all sociology, how people interact with each other and why. And we had an event last night. So this is kind of what we do. We have to explain to people what we're doing. And if anyone's been to a network marketing event, they're a little any event, like even like a personal development event where like they're trying to get people to sign up. Any event where someone's trying to get you to buy something is a little weird. And so we want to take that weirdness out of it. And so we basically had an event where we were at a spot on Santa Monica Beach from 7 literally till midnight.
Wow.
But the only time we were talking about the business was basically we scheduled a 15-minute window to do that.
Okay.
So it's a 15-minute talk. Usually though, it kind of like there's a gray area of in between the talk and the socializing. So I would say that talk went maybe 40 minutes. It kind of went over our budgeted time. And the rest of the time we're just hanging out with the coolest people you've ever met. Like,
yeah, I saw some of your Instagram posts. People were like
pooping
weird and like had all these different costumes on and suits and
that's those people that were like I was attracting the weirdness of the event, right?
Okay.
And that's what I put on my Instagram because that's what my audience likes.
Yeah.
But there was normal conversations about everything happening there. But
yeah, so like what did you guys talk about? Like what was the event? So if part of the event was business talk, let's kind of talk about these products and how we can bring you on our team. What was the rest?
Oh,
it was like the main theme.
So everybody there, because we are the Holistic Justice League, we attract teachers and healers and leaders, people who are sort of successful in their career but not happy. So there's a lot of interesting people there, and people are just all over the place talking. A lot of talk about consciousness and meditation and the new earth and
the new earth. What's the new earth?
So there's
I don't know, this might go down a completely different rabbit hole.
Which is cool.
Okay.
When we think of the word ascension, which is also can be the Christian version of that is you die and you go to heaven, okay? And so there's a lot of versions of this in many different cultures, and it doesn't necessarily require a death, okay? So, but if we take death into consideration, what's happening is you're going from one reality to another, right? So if we take the need for death out of that equation, then you're just going from one reality to another without dying. And if that can happen within our lifetime. And so imagine there's many different realities and they're all tuned to different vibrations, because this is a vibrational universe, all energetically vibrating at different frequencies. And like we turn the channels on a radio to get different stations. Some people operate with the notion that we can tune our frequency to harmonize ourselves to different realities, like we would harmonize ourselves to harmonize our radios to different stations.
It's kind of like, would you equate that with like the law of attraction? Like whatever your state you're vibing at, you're going to attract that into your sphere. You're going to tune into that frequency in somebody else or in something else.
So it's that concept, but at a grand scale, where basically you're vibrating in a completely different earth, and so you're in like earth,
like a different physical earth, or a different.
Yes.
Okay.
So a different physical reality with different physical characteristics, not yet completely non-physical, but more towards non-physical than the denser, like let's call it Earth 1.
Okay.
So there would be basically people operating Earth 1 and Earth 2 kind of simultaneously, because we're in this transition over. And so this is kind of tied in with the 2012 phenomenon and
when the world was supposed to end, right? The Mayan calendar thing.
Right. And that's really signifying the end of an age.
Okay.
So the Mayan calendar, if you look at it, is 3 gears, and it's one gear inside of another gear inside of another gear, and each of the gears have different symbols on them, and as the gears turn, there's like 3,000 or something different combinations of symbols, maybe more than that, I kind of forget. There's a smaller gear, has a certain amount of symbols, And so you can see that the 3 gears, as they turn, there would be 3 different alignments of the symbols. And so the Mayan calendar, it ends at 2012, which is a rough kind of time period. It's not like exact day kind of thing, because we're talking about cosmic forces, and they don't happen like in the seconds and minutes that we think about. It would be kind of like this era that we're in right now is completely in transition. So the Mayan calendar doesn't ever end by the fact that the gears are circular. So it continues. So we're going into a new age, and so we're kind of in this in between.
Okay.
So within this in between, we've got a choice, whether it's subconscious or conscious. We have a choice of which world we're operating in, and that's when you hear people talking about 3D versus 5D, or third density versus fourth density, or the new Earth, or Earth 1, Earth 2. So it's a little bit about that. Now, then there's the scientific community who's kind of like always about what can be proved, what can be observed. And the funny thing with that is that if everything's shifting, including our tools, our instruments of measure, then it's going to be impossible for our instruments of measurement to measure a different channel of existence, right? Because if you're using our machines, like for instance, if let's just say our entire energetic system makes physical reality increase in size. So the tools also increase in size to the same proportion of the reality itself. The measurement, the tool that we're using to measure reality is a part of reality. So if reality shifts, the tool is going to shift also. The tool is going to be impossible to perceive the shift. You get that?
So what can perceive the shift then?
Right. So that's when we look to ancient sciences and occult wisdom and calendars like the Mayan calendar, and you look back in past tens of thousands of years and see that peoples of this planet have been measuring time in hundreds of thousands of years, as opposed to us who measures time in like 1 year. Like our calendar is pretty much fixated on this 365 day cycle, and that's kind of like it just measures the seasons of that. Well, these old calendars measure the seasons of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, and this is all knowledge that's known. So it's really up to us as a society and as individuals to interpret the data. And I don't necessarily think figuring out the exact truth is as important as integrating what you are witnessing
into your reality,
life.
into this world.
Because the definition of reality is a little fluid, right? Like our perception of reality is almost more important than the absolute truth of reality, because there is a gap between that. It doesn't matter if something's absolutely true or false. If you're perceiving it one way, to you, to your perceptive point, that's true. And what makes up the difference? Like, and does it matter if what is actually true is different than what you're perceiving? Right? So perception is almost the same thing as reality to each individual self here.
Interesting. So it's like different people's perceptions, they're all different realities, but maybe their perception might be at a different level or a different frequency than somebody else's.
Right.
Is that kind of a way to look at it?
Yeah. Well, you just brought up something even more deeper, is that the ability to perceive is a state of being that has different depths per person, right? So you have, and not just person, per organism, because animals have an ability to perceive that's different, and plants also. and we start looking at the levels of consciousness, and that's another version of ascension and stepping into new earths and new realities. The deeper and the more broad, the more wide our perception of reality, the more we can see of reality, and the more dimensions we're able to sort of flip through as we're perceiving reality. So if you have only one way to perceive reality, then you're basically looking at reality in a one-dimensional kind of space. But there's many other contradicting, because there's many other different viewpoints of reality that kind of contradict everything. So if you're holding reality as from the time I'm born to the time I die, and I have desires and fears and I have the need to eat and the need to sleep and the need to have sex, and that's what, the YOLO philosophy, you only live once. If you're looking at reality that way, that's true. But then also, if like we all in science, there's this whole, I don't even know if it's a debate anymore, but like linear time doesn't exist, and that's an illusion that we are experiencing. And so we can be within the illusion, and we can step out of the illusion and then look at the same exact reality that we're experiencing linear time, and we can step out of that and say, okay, linear time doesn't exist. What does this all mean from the fact that it's all happening now, as opposed to there being a past, present, and future? What if there's only a present? And so now we have two versions of reality, two dimensions of reality to experience life through. And that's just two, right? Linear time versus non-linear time. And when you start looking at things, just to give me an example of what that means, because some people might have never thought of there not being a past and a future. That goes into your sort of law of attraction thing. If you are being a certain state, you're going to steer yourself towards a reality where reality is harmonized to your state of being. And so we have choice of our futures, because all of our potential futures exist now. And we're not so much traveling through time as we are traveling through realities. And so we've also heard the concept of infinite parallel universes. And so that's another sort of window that we can perceive reality through. If there's infinite parallel realities, that means that right now we're sitting across the table talking to each other. There's another reality where we did this over the phone, right? And we harmonized to this reality where we're in the same room, but we could have easily just harmonized to the reality where we did it over the phone. Now we didn't from this perceptive point, but there is another reality right now where we're doing this interview over the phone.
Man, that's crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
And so basically all of your potential futures exist now, but your perceptive point, your point of perception, the thing that is kind of like before the state of you. There's like the I am presence, but then there's, well, what's experiencing life as you? That point of perception is choosing or harmonized to be in this reality. But there's another version of our greater self that's experiencing reality a different way. And
that's if this isn't the best version. Then our greater self is experiencing this in a different way.
We can go so far as to say that all experiences are happening, but we're observing this one. And that's another thing, like, what are we? That's another question that we have to ponder and ask and consider all possibilities of answers. See, the way that I live is that, so science wants to find the answers to questions, and I'm not saying that's not valid and not necessary and not like a legitimate way of being, but again, we don't have to take everything as ultimate truth, because there is another state of being where we don't ever pair answers with questions, and when the question stimulates many different answers, we can consider all of the answers and integrate what we find from that. So integration is what's most important. The pairing what is true if you take an answer and pair it with a question, it almost kills any other possibility of integrating any other potential answer.
Because as soon as you say this is right, that
Right.
means everything else is wrong.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about, do we want a multi-dimensional existence or do we want a single dimensional existence? And to me personally, from my state of being now, it's like the difference of like a two-dimensional black and white picture versus like virtual reality, high definition, like seeing multiple realities, multiple possibilities, multiple truths, integrating it all into like a supercomputer that is our brain and analyzing everything from multiple dimensions, rather than going through life trying to analyze what is and what isn't. Like, what if it all is?
Do you think that's what frustrates people? Like these people that are coming to the Holistic Justice League, are they like, oh my gosh, I'm in this reality, it's not quite right, I know there can be something different, like I want a new perspective? Is that kind of what's going on? And then you guys show them, look at this, there's all these different realities that you could tap into if you do these certain things.
Yeah, we get a lot of feedback of like, I've been waiting and asking for this group of people, and you guys are it. To us, and there's people that come that recognize the vibe and fit right in, and there's people that have been waiting for it, you know, that have been maybe stuck in a 9-to-5 job and with a family that doesn't get them, and then they feel more at home with us. And then we talk about health and wealth and consciousness, because all of those are tied. You can only be conscious to the degree that you're healthy and understand finances, because that's a whole slave system that's set up on this physical planet. And if we don't have conversations about all three of those things, consciousness, how healthy is your physical body, how it's operating, whether through superfoods or qigong or exercise or whatever, and how do you make the green pieces of paper, how do you create the green pieces of paper that we all value so much? And I've been in states of my life where I've had as many green pieces of paper as I wanted, where I could walk into any car dealership and buy whatever car I wanted, and buy anything on the internet, live in the houses at the top of the Hollywood Hills. I've been in that state, and I've also been in the state where I just want to go into nature, and so there's actually no need for the green pieces of paper if all I want to do is go into the woods. So, I mean, I've been at the state where I'm just like, I don't want a house anymore, so I don't need money to buy the house and to buy the things and to pay the bills. And so I'm not saying the green pieces of paper are necessary for what we consider as wealth. Wealth is another multidimensional concept that is important. And so money is the center stone of that, but it's not the important piece there. But understanding and being conscious of how money works on this plane of existence is important.
Because money, I mean, it's basically a symbol. It's like a representation of something kind of deeper, which I think you're considering wealth, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they go chasing money. They're like, I don't have money, and they're operating in this state of lack, in a state of want, and that kind of chases the money away. It's because they're not being the money maker.
You're vibrating to the reality where you don't have what you want.
Yeah.
As opposed to harmonizing yourself to the reality of your choosing, which is exactly where you are. And then from that launch pad, deciding where to go. Because we all, from this point that we're at right now, could literally, we can do anything. We can't really do everything, but we can do anything. You know?
That's kind of a it's an exciting statement to realize that, but I think it can also be sort of scary for people too, because then you have to decide what you want to do. Like, I'm curious, like for you, do you want to be in the woods, or do you want to be in the city? Do you want to be in both? Like, and how do you know what you want?
So that's a very important question, and it's so I have a lot of people sending me messages or in real life asking me questions, and the question I ask them is, what do you want? Like, what do you want to be doing? Because a lot of the way that they're structuring the questions is what they don't want about their current reality. And you can see, I mean, in the course of a 5-minute conversation with anyone, you can see how they created and wanted their reality. So as much as everyone thinks that they're in a situation that they don't desire, and I'm talking about bad situations too, you know, someone just killed your brother or whatever it is. Bad situations are usually, and within 5 minutes you can see how you created that. Like you personally create everything in your existence, and just on a very superficial level of that, wherever anybody is listening to this, if they just look around wherever they are, whether it's outside or inside, if they just look around at everything around them in their physical space right now, they can see that everything has a story of how it got there and how you are responsible. I'm right now, I just moved into this place, none of this stuff is even mine. Yeah. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing how I created this. I created the fact that there's a bunch of spatulas over there because I like to eat food, and of course I'm at somebody's place where they're an awesome cook and they have this stuff. And so as we look around and look at all of the stuff that we created in our physical space, we can then do the same thing with like our entire life and the situations that we're in, not just the physical things in our physical reality, but the situations that we're currently in and have experienced. This is all our choosing, and it's happening for us.
So like so somebody gets killed, right? Like that I have a hard time wrapping my mind around.
Yeah.
Like how is something like that, or like disease or of another person, like how is that in your control?
So if we look at our physical body, there's cells, millions, maybe in trillions of cells in our body that are killing other cells, eating other cells, birthing other cells, just determining other cells aren't worth it and flushing them down the garbage chute of the body.
It's like a war zone. It's like
right. This is all happening within our own self. And if we zoomed into the perspective of one of our cells, we would see that it has to eat, it has to fight for existence, it has to rest, digest, and eventually dies. And this is all necessary for us to have our conscious existence. We don't think anything of it, right? But from the perspective of one of our cells, it could look very dramatic and like, why me? We can take the victim mindset of any of the normal processes that are happening within our body, even the fact that we eat plants that were once living or animals that were once living. We do it all the time. We accept it. We understand that it's necessary for us. But then when we get into a situation where it's uncomfortable for us being a singular cell or self of consciousness within a giant organization of consciousnesses, we allow ourselves to convince ourselves that it shouldn't be. And I pretty much think that everything is true except for the statement that something shouldn't be, because it wouldn't be if it wasn't necessary, right? So anything that's happening now is happening exactly as it should, perfectly as it should, otherwise it wouldn't be happening. So the fact that you can't understand it or you don't like it doesn't negate the fact that it's happening. If it's happening, it's happening. And your inability to accept the reality that you created is the reason of anxiety. It's not the reality itself that's causing the anxiety, it's your sort of interruption, your disagreement with the fact that you are the creator. And that's the important thing, is that when you disagree with what's happening, you eject yourself from acknowledging yourself as the one that created it. You are unsubscribing from the God figure within your reality, and you just continually basically subject yourself to a victim state of being. And so I don't have any problem with death and murder, and most people don't. It doesn't matter if you're vegan or not. Like if you're eating plants, you are consuming consciousness. This is if we were to design the universe, let's just say we had a science project as a fifth grader and we designed the universe, we would design a mechanism where certain levels feed on the levels below it, and there would just be a self-perpetuating system that is self-sustained, just like we utilize ourselves within us that utilize the nutrition and the energy that we put in and attain into ourself. We are also going to be utilized by a grander organism than ourself, and not really and the life and death of ourselves, and the struggle and the disappointment and the anger and the frustration and the happiness and the bliss, all of these things are part of our existence. And so I'm not saying that death and murder is or isn't traumatic. I'm just saying that in the end, we all accept this as part of life.
Yeah. And because we're choosing to live this life and live this reality, everything that happens is okay. Because I guess, I mean, technically we could, I mean, would you say like we could just step out and say, done with this existence, and then everything that happens, you wouldn't be creating anymore. It would be in the hands of the people who are living in this reality.
We have different versions of ourselves. We have individual selves, like our small self, where we are operating from the perspective of self. But I'm going to bring up ascension again. The ascended version of ourself, we have connection to all other selves. So as we ascend vibrationally, so I'm going to back up. Animals and plants have awareness. Below animals and plants, we have the elements: earth, air, fire, water. These make up the animals and plants, right? Like all plants are made up of a combination of earth, air, light, and water, and some form of consciousness, okay? And so we call that ether. These are the 5 elements that are spoken about in a lot of traditions. Those things make up plants and animals that eat the plants. It's all still made up of elements and this consciousness. At the level of animals and plants, you have awareness. They are aware. They do things with awareness. They eat, they have sex, they fight each other, they sleep, they do all these things in an aware fashion. We have self-awareness. So at the level of the human being, we are self-aware. We are aware of ourself within the matrix of reality. An animal or a plant, not so much. As the animal and plant come closer to becoming a human level, you start to see adaptations of self-awareness. You see the gorilla start to keep a harem of females for himself and keep a territory for himself. But we are very, very self-aware. The next level after us is all of the self-aware parts start to integrate together. And so at a lower level human existence, we're very self-centered. At a higher level, almost ready for the next level of ascension, or the new earth, or whatever we want to call it, heaven. We have an integrated connectedness of ourself as everybody else. And now the reason for these levels is because you can't be integrated if you didn't understand each individual component. So we needed to really come through this human existence of self, because now we're strong individual components from when we connect to everybody else. And so through that connection, this is already happening with the internet. So we are technologically developing systems to symbolize what we are going to probably naturally be able to do without technology. And many people, and I know many of these people, you may have experiences with people that are empathic or can feel the emotions of other people, and or are psychic, and or can read the Akashic records, kind of get into everybody's field. So we're starting to see people born on this planet that already have these abilities of connection. And eventually everybody, this entire earth is going to be vibrating because of the sun light. It's shifting. Everyone's going to be connected. So then we're going to be like 10 billion humans that are all self-aware and aware of the whole.
Interesting. So being aware of all the other people in the world,
Right.
being aware that the world is kind of part of us, we are part of the world. So would you say that the internet it's like accelerating this sort of higher state of connection and self-awareness?
Yeah, we could look at it as a stepping stone,
Yeah.
but if we take all other story out of the internet, it is the World Wide Web. Like that's what www stands for, World Wide Web, and that is what we're doing. So if we take the story of technology out of it, we are telecommunicating already. We are experiencing the emotions of other people when we look at Instagram and we see somebody happy or sad or whatever. We're actually, it's already happening. So whether it's technology or not, it's happening. What I'm explaining is happening, and it's only going to get more and more. Imagine, those little bands people wear that track their feelings and if they're sleeping.
Yeah.
That's going to be what the new social media channels are going to have. So we're going to be able to see the people that we're following, how they feel now, and maybe how they feel when they took that picture or the video, and maybe the pictures and the videos and the two-dimensional surface isn't as important as their feelings. And we're going to be able to look and we're going to be able to see, like, this entire country is feeling a certain way. What are they doing different? And we're going to be able to learn, not through visually looking, but actually feeling how they're feeling, like actually seeing how they're feeling, their feeling states, and then readapting our life to that, because eventually we're going to want to do what makes people the happiest. I think we're going to start homogenizing as a species, which is going to take us closer to resonating in the same frequency, which is basically like tuning ourselves all to the same radio channel. And we're going to start waking up one day and we're not going to need the device to tell us how someone feels. We're just going to have that feeling.
And technology is kind of just helping us get to that point.
Right.
It's kind of like the connector to that future human state.
Right. Of course, I can talk negatively about AI and technology, but it's like it's too. Again, it's like we can't. Like, why are we looking at things and saying that shouldn't be? It doesn't make sense. Let's look at everything as how is this serving me? How am I creating this? What does it mean for my existence? Yes, there's risks, and yes, there's physical damage that some of this technology is doing to us. But I don't necessarily shy away from physical damage and death. Like, this is, as I was saying earlier, death is necessary for life to thrive, and I don't live my life considering that it's the most important thing. That's where we make. I think there's some lapses in judgment when we value life so much. Like, for instance, the military will go bomb an entire village because they're holding one guy there, and yeah, we shouldn't be fighting to begin with, but it's just an example of we will do anything to save a human life, even if it means slaughtering tons of animals or tons of plants to find a cure for something. I don't have answers for everything either, but it's just interesting that we value life so much and we're afraid of death so much, and it's just accepted that people shouldn't die.
You know what I think is fascinating is that when you look at life like that, when you say to yourself, you know what, life isn't everything, maybe it's not as serious as, I tend to take it, I feel like things become more enjoyable. Like, personally, I've experienced when I look at life like that, I kind of become happier. Fear drops away, anxiety drops away, and I can do stuff without worrying, what other people think. And it kind of it makes me think about you and the things that you do, and the videos you create, the content that you put out there. It's dealing with very heavy subject matter, but in a super light, fun sort of way. So I'm curious, does that feed into your style with your brand and the things that you do on a daily basis, like what role does that like life and death perspective play in your life?
So, everything you just said is true. It's resonant to how I am. If we don't take life so seriously, have you taken cold showers or ice baths before?
Yeah, actually, for like 6 months, I've been taking a cold shower every morning.
So there's physiological benefits to that, right? Which there's probably some controversy around that, but there's also it's a mental challenge and a practice, right? There's this whole battle of, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyways, and that eventually evolves to allowing yourself to surrender and be okay with it. And then eventually can even evolve to, this is what I'm doing and I'm loving it. And so there's this whole evolvement of getting into this uncomfortable situation, and we can do the same thing with how we think about things. So and I'm going to back up because we talked about a few things, but I'm going to go back to death. Like I've considered dying, and I've actually been in situations where I thought I was going to die, and been very proud of myself because of the mental practices I've done, the visualizations I've done, where I've considered very intricately situations where I die, and I go through the process mentally, and so much to the point where it's like the point of the ice bath. Maybe there is resistance, and then it comes to going through the visual exercise just because, and then there's like being able to actually meditate to a point where I'm going through the death experience and being okay with it. And then it comes into real life where something happens where I literally think I'm going to die, and I'm in a state of calmness because I've practiced, much like you going to an ice bath every day, I've practiced this routine. And you look at all of the great sages that have been murdered, all of the stories about them. So we've got Pythagoras, Hermes, Socrates, Jesus, like all of these people that they either outcast, like Galileo, or just straight up killed. They're all calm in the moment of death because they have a knowledge and a gnosis that this is fine. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to wake up from this dream now. I did what I could while I was here, and I guess now it's time to go. And I'm surrendering to the fact that this reality is ejecting me out of itself. It's the same thing. They're all extremely calm. None of them are struggling. So when you look at that and then you like apply it to yourself, okay, well, everyone's wearing these freaking bracelets that say, "What would Jesus do?" And like, dude, that dude calmly died with acceptance, right? So is everybody wearing those bracelets okay with the anxieties of life? Because that's what the representation, whether Jesus existed or not, doesn't matter, right? It's about integration. So the integration of the story of Jesus, whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. The perception of it, are you able to integrate the non-anxiety into your life and the acceptance? And so my entire life is completely based on acceptance, and I haven't regretted. The two things I remember regretting were apologizing, basically saying sorry to somebody because I was forced to, because they needed to hear it twice. That's the only two things that I can remember that would come closest to regret. Was basically admitting that I regret something. And so I don't ever remember regretting anything. Any action I've done, and I've taken actions where I've caused myself damage and other people damage, and it's just necessary. But the clothes I wear, the way that I am, the way that I talk to people, is all with this understanding that everything is as it is. And so there's the way that I look, the choices that I make about my appearance, the choices that I make about my life, it's never about external, visualization on me. In psychology, that's called, I have a internal locus of control, which means that my control mechanism is originating inside of myself. That's what's controlling my life philosophy and my mentality. And an external locus of control means that you are letting the external environment trigger your action. So you do things based on external environment, sort of feedback and or examples. And I haven't watched TV since it's in 20 years, since I was 17. So I mean, I've
never watched one show, one episode.
Yeah,
of anything.
I've been in places with TVs, and it's crazy now. So if I go somewhere and there's a TV and I watch a few minutes, I mean, I'll be in places with TV.
Yeah.
I'm always in amazement. I'm just like, what the heck? This is what's happening on TV now? Like, this is, a friend of mine was auditioning for some show, and so we watched the show that was being auditioned for, and I was just like, what the heck? This is TV.
What
now?
was it, like The Bachelor or something?
It was no. It was like one of these like futuristic.
Okay.
I think it was like post-apocalyptic sort of show where the graphics are just like insane, right? The graphics are insane, and it's literally like, this is the Matrix. This is the program that everybody's ruling their life with. They're watching this and they're being programmed on how to act and how to live and how to fear and how to relate to each other.
Yeah. So is that why you don't watch TV? Because, like, I just wonder if you have this internal, like, loci, can you watch TV and understand that that's what's happening and be okay with it? Or is there, like, a different reason why you detach from it?
It's just a waste of time for me.
Okay.
So I guess if I had infinite time, it's not even entertaining, because my life is everything in these movies and TV is actually happening in my life. Like the last movie I saw, my friends dragged me to watch Doctor Strange, which is about like multiple realities and the ability to like learn things while you're sleeping
and you're like, I do this
like,
stuff.
Guys, I don't need to sit down and watch this on a two-dimensional screen. Like, this is my life. This is actually very boring for me to sit here and watch. I'd rather, like, I've always been, I never liked spectating, right? So I've played hockey my whole life. I never liked going to a hockey game to watch. Like, I never liked watching the Detroit Red Wings. I grew up in Michigan, and everyone wanted to go to the Red Wing games because they were like winning Stanley Cups and stuff. And I was just like, no, like the Red Wings are winning the Stanley Cup, and I'm outside playing street hockey with like my neighbors and my brother.
Yeah, you want to be doing. You want to be in the action.
And so it's the same thing with TV. Everyone's kind of like being entertained, but what if that entertainment was actually your life? What if you didn't give yourself the option of plugging into the Matrix and being entertained? And how would your life be differently? What actions would you take? So when things come up in my life, the decisions I'm making are like I don't have this external black hole of the TV feeding me stimulus. So when I am looking at my life, I'm more willing and allured to do the bold and to do the things that are risky, because I don't have this stimulus coming into my life from a TV. So it does definitely affect the decisions that I make.
Would you say that you're entertaining people? Personally, I've had this kind of like back and forth relationship with entertainment. I was like kind of in the entertainment industry for a little bit. I like thought I wanted to make movies, and then I realized I'm like, I don't like watching movies. So, but I've come out of it and I've like started to look at entertainment in a different way, and I'm trying to understand like what is the role of entertainment even in our lives? Because it seems like kind of what you're doing, like it is entertaining to a certain extent, but like, is that how you look at it?
Well, one thing I always remind people is that don't mistake the teachings for the knowledge of the teacher, because a teacher will always talk to the audience at the level that they can understand, right? It's basically at that level or one level higher. Otherwise, you're over people's heads. So, in order for myself to use a channel like Instagram to impact everybody who's on Instagram, I display a level of entertainment as to facilitate the teachings to the audience. But that is not truly the level that I'm operating at, right? Like it's a tool that I'm using to facilitate the teachings on Instagram, but I will always teach at the level or a level higher than like the person that is listening to me. So yes, I do use entertainment. I do use, clickbaity type language. I am aware of these things in order to garner the attention. And then my intention though is not entertainment. My intention is supporting the facilitation of people living their dream creations, because I want to live in everybody's dream world. So I am intending on opening up the reality where people can do that, where they can create and facilitate their own environments and creations, because that's going to be better for everyone, including myself. And I use a level of entertainment in order to do that. So now then you ask yourself, what is the intention of the TV producers? Now I'm not saying they're all self-serving. I'm sure there's some enlightening stuff and some disclosure happening through entertainment. That's why everything's like talking about aliens and stuff, but it's a lot of fear-based stuff. So when you're actually programming people about extraterrestrials and multiple dimensions in a fear-based way, you can see the intention of the programmers are to instill fear to the audience about these things that are actually true.
Yeah, what do you think? Okay, so what do you think about aliens? I was just in Sedona. I went on 2 different alien spotting sort of things.
Did you see anything?
We saw some lights. We saw some like moving lights, which, I mean, like typically I would have associated them with satellites. But
they were moving like this, like
the ones that I saw, so some like they dimmed out, and it looked like they ascended like thousands of feet higher, like instantaneously. And apparently sometimes they do make like right angle turns and like do zigzags. I didn't really see any of that, but it was definitely like, I mean, according to her, she said there's only 10 satellites in the northern Arizona sky at one time, and there were like dozens of these little dots.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm curious.
I've seen saucer type UFO up close, just cruising over downtown LA. I was on top of a building. My gyms were in downtown LA, so I spent a lot of time there. Just cruising like 200 feet above me, like just cruising, like maybe.
And it was like obvious that it
was
something.
Yeah,
crazy.
It was. I was looking at it from below, and it was for sure a metallic saucer shaped thing. And I've seen orbs of light rip through reality, sort of like it looked like it was ripping through a piece of paper, the size of my fist, light, but it wasn't emitting light, but it was glowing, like, and then it zoomed around a little bit and then ripped out of reality the same way that came in. I've seen those happening around me a lot. They kind of frequent me a lot.
Interesting.
And then and I've seen the dots. I've been places where people they use technology to call UFOs. So in downtown LA, there's something called Disclosure Fest, and every single year they call UFOs. I don't know. Next time you go, it's an awesome festival in July, I think, or June. There's the observation deck. It's like find the place that there's like a bridge, and there you'll see a bunch of weird technology. So they don't advertise this.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was there.
Right. But those who know it's there. But they can't like put it out into public, like, hey, we're calling UFOs at this event, because it's going to attract the wrong audience. people that will not want that to happen. But and it's during the day, and so you go to this place, and every time I've went, the little specks show up right above us, and there's, like you said, dozens, and they go from like 12 to 6, and then they like multiply, and they're moving around like in 90-degree angles and straight, and they're just kind of hanging out almost. So I've seen that there. Now, none of these have stated it means that there's an extraterrestrial on board, right? Like these could just be human-made technologies, but I definitely realized that we're all extraterrestrials. We're all extraterrestrials, and this is back to like this multi-dimensional level of perception. So I perceive reality from the standpoint of us all being extraterrestrials at one sort of perception of reality, and it's not always, quote, good. Like another perception of reality, the entire Earth is owned and operated by ET races, and we're just kind of like the slave system that they're siphoning energy from. And there's all this talk about the secret space program also, where the entire moon is inhabited, and there's like many extraterrestrial races on the backside of the moon, including bases set up by the Germans, and there's like millions of people on the moon and on Antarctica.
That sounds nuts.
And underneath the Earth, like right underneath the crust, there's like, it's like a honeycomb structure.
Okay.
So I'm at like giant, huge caves the size of states, like the size of Texas. Do you know how the lungs are? Do you know how the lungs work? So there's I think they're called alveoli.
No, it's this.
So you know the shape of our lungs, right? And then I think they're called alveoli. I hope they are. It's been like a long time since 9th grade biology. But as air comes into our lungs, in order to increase the surface that the air can be exchanged into the blood, there's these things called alveoli, and they're little, like, they look like little sacs. Like they're shaped like sacs. And so there's like millions of these little like teardrop shaped kind of like caves on the surface of our lungs. And so now the air isn't just like hitting the surface of our lungs, but the surface of our lungs have these millions of little pockets they can go into. And what that does is it increases the surface area of that the air can exchange into our body, right?
Yeah.
So imagine the surface of the Earth being just a flat surface, but underneath the surface there's these millions of sacs, these like a honeycomb structure. There's actually more surface area, like way more surface area underneath the crust than there is on the actual surface, because it's all like basically as the Earth dries and cools and spins, the center of the surface of the Earth dries, and as it's spinning it starts separating. And if you look at bread, if you do this, like if you pull bread apart, you can see that like if you pull dough apart that's almost dry, it would cause like caves, like a honeycomb structure.
So the theory is that there's all these things, all these beings living in these honeycombs.
Yeah. And they also don't have to operate within the laws of physics that we operate in. So if they're vibrating at a different frequency, they can kind of go through, or they have the technology to shift, to phase shift up a notch out of this physical reality. They can just drive through the walls of rock, and so they don't really operate. And they also utilize the energy that just is all in the air, so there doesn't necessarily need to be a sun to bring light in there, because the sun is in every speck of this entire Earth.
So they're just absorbing it.
Right, and it's just utilizing, the light source is just there because they've activated it somehow. And this, again, it's just about what if, can I integrate this knowledge into my existence? The answer of and I don't need to see this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but when we consider it, what lessons can we learn and what integrations can we take of this?
Interesting. So just because you're able to kind of imagine this,
Right.
that alone is a powerful sort of piece of wisdom that you can take and do something with right here, right now.
Yeah.
Huh.
And so it doesn't matter if it's true or not. So people are heavy on psychedelics, right?
Uh-huh.
I haven't done ayahuasca or DMT or like, I'm not really big into psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I realize when you talk to these people that do ayahuasca, they're acting like the experience is the most amazing thing in their life. And it might be, I don't know, I don't have the experience. But what I do know is that the high level practitioners of plant medicines all
Mm-hmm.
say that integration is the important part about it. The visions and what you experienced, that's one thing. But are you able to take that altered state experience and integrate it into your physical life, which we're now at,
Mm-hmm.
and utilize, you know, that altered state to turn into permanent traits on this? Like, are you able to use that experience to shift your way of being here, to integrate that shift?
Mm-hmm.
And that integration, they all say, you know, I did DMT 2 years ago and I'm still integrating it. You might have heard somebody say that, like, I'm still processing it.
Yeah.
Well, is the experience necessary for that process? That's the question I'm asking that I don't have the answer for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is the vision or the experience necessary? Can we just integrate? Can we just, like, why go through the process?
Well, to integrate, wouldn't you have to have some sort of experience or idea or something kind of pop up inside?
Yeah, maybe. That's a good thing, but I'm already integrating so much that doing a plant medicine is just like, it doesn't really, it's not something I'm striving for, right? So then we go back to internal versus external locus of control. There's lots of people telling me that I would benefit from it, but to me, I have no desire to do it. So I can very easily say, yeah, they're right, I'm gonna say yes the next time I get invited to an ayahuasca ceremony, because I get invited all the time. But when I truly look at the situation, I would just be saying yes because of them. And I don't have the sensation that my reality is aligned for this to happen. So my understanding of my own situation, my understanding is that I'm okay. I studied psychedelics most of my 20s for like 3 years before I even tried marijuana. I don't really use it anymore, but I studied for 3 years all the psychedelics, and I determined that all the plant medicines are okay for me to do. However, I'm only going to do them if my reality is aligned to it. So I don't really make effort. Like, if you have power, you don't need force. So I don't force things into my reality because I think it's going to help me, or I just, things are here and I just flow. And so if I flow and I find myself like in a ceremony and everything feels right, then the answer is yes, but I'm not going to try for that.
I see. So it's interesting because there's a lot of similarities between, I think, your experience and mine. I've never done any psychedelics besides marijuana, and what I think is fascinating is that, like, I went on this big Asia trip this year for like 6 months, traveled Asia, went to a bunch of different countries, and I experienced a lot of different things that I felt changed my perspective of the world. And then coming back into, you know, the Western world, back into the US, like, it throws a lot of things off because you're like, man, well, I don't have to do things that way. I don't have to, like, work in this typical job or think the typical things, dress the typical way. And that process in itself, I feel like is very similar to what I would imagine, you know, doing ayahuasca and DMT and coming back and trying to just make sense of everything. So I'm like curious, like, because it seems like you're going through constantly, as everybody kind of is, like an integration process. Like, do you have like a few core principles or steps for integrating that helps you? And when I say that, I mean kind of just like taking whatever ideas and whatever sort of internal experiences you have and putting them to use in this reality that we're living in right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a difficult one for me to answer because it's not so easy to integrate. So even doing something simple like deciding, hey, I don't need to be mad at somebody for cutting me off on the road. Like that was developed, and I recognize that was developed from me being a competitive athlete and always wanting to be first. And so if someone cuts me off, I kind of feel like, well, I need to get them back, or at least verbally say something, and then maybe just at least think it. These are all steps and stages. Like I used to say it out loud, like, motherfucker, what the fuck you doing, right? And then it was like, all right, I'm gonna stop saying that. And me just having the intention to stop saying something when somebody does something to me on the road took a couple years, because it just comes out, you know? And I actually, during that process, realized that something's wrong with the car. Something's fundamentally wrong with the car. It has to be disharmonious to us, because it's so easy. I would never talk about somebody face to face like that. Even if they cut in front of me in the store, I'm not gonna just say something. So when I then I actually quit driving cars, and that's why I have a 3-wheeled vehicle with no roof or doors or anything, because I want to be exposed to the elements and not have a barrier between my fellow humans. But and then eventually got to like, okay, why am I even thinking these negative thoughts about these people? And so that takes a couple years. And now I can drive and be calm and at ease. Now this is something that I had to go through. Maybe somebody else never had to go through that, right? But I don't know if there's any easy way to go through it. It all starts, just like anything, with intention. Just like if you want to bring something into your life or change the way that you're being, it all just starts with a thought. And then to just determine, it's determination. You're just going to determine that I'm going to be this new way. And giving yourself the allowing yourself the time for reality to shift towards that. So it's as simple as intending with a thought and then not being attached to having it now. Because when you're attached to having something now, you're constantly reaffirming the fact that you don't have it, right? That you're not. And we're talking about having physical things and or being a certain way with intention, with integration of certain knowledge. So if you see something or experience something, like you said, like you go out of town, that's enough. It's enough change and shift where it might take you a few years to integrate that into your life, or it might just happen instantaneously. But a lot of things have to change. Like usually, like you might get different friends, you might get interested in different things, your job might change because of this new concept, and so your entire reality is going to start shifting, and that is the benefit of integration, is that you are literally shifting into a new reality. You're choosing out of your old reality, and you have to let it go. There's a lot of letting go of things that is a practice.
How did you make the shift from CrossFit and owning all these different CrossFit gyms to, I mean, for lack of better words, like becoming a yogi and studying these ancient sciences? Like, what was that shift like?
So, I mean, this started a long time before I even owned gyms. I was interested in this stuff, but I kind of put it on the back burner. I was messing around with meditation and parallel realities and hopping and controlling realities before I owned a gym. That's actually how I made a gym. I was practicing Kundalini with a high-level energy healer, and during that time, I created my gym in downtown LA, which is exactly what my dreams were. And I moved to LA with the knowledge that I could do that, and so I did it. Then when I was owning my gym, I was backgrounding like all of this stuff while I owned my gym. I was just closeted about it because nobody could handle these conversations. But those people might know that like I was very weird in the competition scene in CrossFit. I barely worked out, but I still did really well, and it was just like some unexplainable things were happening. So 2017 though, people started being open with the idea of consciousness. So then I started like seeing an opportunity for me to be who I really want to be, and so that happened. But I closed my gym around 2017 also. So maybe I just opened myself up to the possibility. But before that, 2016, 15ish, I was having a conversation with my friend Carlos, and I just randomly basically realized in the conversation that I don't know who I am without this like athletic personality. Like, who am I if I didn't have the muscles and the looks and the physique and the fitness? And so we're talking about integration. I simply had a realization in a random conversation that like, wow, I remember being like picked on in school and determining to become strong so that nobody could sort of pick on me anymore, and I used that strength to basically become this like very aggressive hockey player. And we won national titles, and then I transferred all of that into owning a gym and working out and being a competitive CrossFitter. Like, what if I didn't have this functional body? What if I could walk in the room and nobody recognized me as the guy who works out every single day? What am I? And like that question, literally, like, I was already kind of bored with the gym, but like upon asking myself that question, I just started integrating and wondering and making decisions based on that. And so there was a point right when I closed my gym where I said, I want to see who I am. I want to answer this question. So I ate the least amount of protein possible for like 2 years. And I lost I went from like 185 pounds to like close to 160.
Okay.
And I was, able to, and I just quit shaving and quit cutting my hair, and that was all to answer this question I had for myself, like, who else am I? Because I don't want to speak for everyone else, so I was getting stuck into this idea of myself, this story. I was running a program, and it was very easy for me to run, and I just decided to eject out and step into another world. And it takes a little bit of time to lose your muscle but I started liking that other person and discovering it's like having a second life, And then there was a point where it's when I got involved with this nutrition company, and the amino acids we carry are the same stuff that's in the IV drips of coma patients and newborn babies, and this stuff will put muscle on you whether you're working out or not. And so I started using these, and I started gaining muscle, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that guy that had muscle. And so I started gaining a little bit of muscle, so I'm kind of like in between those two stages now, and I'm kind of both of those people. But I did go on this journey where I like purposely wasn't eating any protein, and like just like I don't need health. I was still eating organic everything and quality stuff, because I'm not going to poison myself for no reason. But I wasn't nourishing my body to the degree that I used to. And so that's kind of the answer. I randomly asked myself the question, who else am I? And that's what sent me on this weird roller coaster.
So you experimented, and it's interesting because I feel like to some extent everybody's kind of, if they step back and take a look at the world we live in and decide that you want to try a new job, that you want to try to achieve something else, you've got to kind of experiment to figure out like the right way to do that for you. So like, I'm like curious now, like, do you have an idea or a vision for your ideal self? Or do you feel as if like you're living it right now, or you're still kind of like on the path that you're doing?
I hear what you're asking. I do flip back and forth, right? I have acceptance of my ideal self now, right? Because that's all there is, really. But I do the way that I operate with desire, so what I hear you asking is, do I desire to be somebody else? Like, am I traveling in a direction somewhere, right? And I don't tend to look at it as me traveling in a direction and trying to go in a direction as much as that reality pulling me towards it. So when I experience desire, whether it's to have something or to be somebody else, it seems to me that I'm somehow harmonized or magnetically attracted to this quote future reality where the thing that is being desired is had, right? So it's, I look at desire as a premonition as opposed to me like wanting something and then taking action to get there.
To like go chase it.
Right. So it's really it's something that I am uncertain about, like my future, because I'm not necessarily attached to any particular future. I do have it's basically just completely confusing actually, because I'm in this giant experiment that nobody is really teaching me. I'm just kind of like, I don't really have a teacher or a mentor in this whole thing. So the answer to your question, which I don't know is going to be a forever thing, but I have no clue what. So like, for instance, my entire identity just shifted 2 weeks ago, like completely shifted. And I'm gonna tell you how. So I'm actually just now sort of like stumbled into a new reality and just like kind of like in amazement of it. And so that's why like the future of this is like something I've never even considered, because I'm currently in this state that I'm just like, what the heck? So I went to Hawaii for 3 weeks, and then I went from there to a week-long rebirthing breathwork seminar with my friend Eric.